Welcome to the Main Street Chronicles. On this podcast, Stokes and myself will help lead you on a journey through Disney history, fantasy, and legend as we tell you the told and untold stories of Disney. We hope that you enjoy Season 1 as we dive into S.E.A., the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Buckle up, this could be a bumpy ride. But before we dive in, we should probably tell you who we are. I'm Brian Reed, and I have a deep-rooted passion for Disney history. I've been a die-hard fan for nearly 10 years, and I have learned enough about the past and how it's shaping the future for the parks that we all love and cherish. I would now like to introduce my good friend and co-host, Stokes Laird, to tell you a little bit about himself.
Thanks, Brian. I grew up in a Disney-loving family. I was lucky enough to take a good amount of trips together when we were growing up. However, similar to Brian, my passion and appreciation for the place and its history has really grown in the past decade or so, which has led me to seek out any and all information I can, which is really how we ended up here. Now that we have that out of the way, are you ready for an adventure?
Let's do it.
Chapter 1, S.E.A. Brian and Stokes meet on a beautiful summer day at Disney Springs at the Walt Disney World Resort. While walking towards Town Center, they decide to go into Jock Lindsay's hangar bar. As they walk in, they take a step back and realize this is not a regular bar, but something much more. As they sit down, the bartender approaches.
Welcome to Jock Lindsay's. I'm Jock.
Wait, this is your bar?
Yes, indeed. It took a lot of years and a lot of air tours, but I eventually made enough to expand my hangar and put in a bar. And here she is. This place is a gathering spot for friends and travelers to come and share their tales of adventures and explorations.
How'd you end up here?
Well, in '38, I was working with my buddy Indy, as his pilot, and we ended up here while searching for the Fountain of Youth. Well, I fell in love with this little island, so once our expedition ended, Reggie and I packed up a home in Venezuela, and I bought some property here, and made it my home base of operations for my very own aerial tour company.
Wait, what? You said Indy, like Indiana Jones?
Yeah, Indy and I go way back.
So, what's the last adventure that you and Indy went on?
Oh, well, it's been a while. Back in '57, there was the Crystal Skull expedition, but that was more of a fiasco than an adventure. These days, my biggest adventure is a very intoxicated patron. And Indy, well, he's keeping busy with some stunt show, replaying his greatest hits for the last 30 years. I miss those days, though. But I think it might just be time for another adventure.
Well, since you haven't been on one in a while, is there a specific one you remember like it was yesterday?
Hey, bartender. Guys, listen, I'd love to stay and chat, but this bar isn't gonna run itself, and no one else is gonna do it either. So I better get going. If you want something done right, it's just better you do it yourself. Hey, if you guys really want to hear some stories, head over to that table right there tucked inside the diving bell. There you'll find an old buddy of mine. He could tell you stories for days. Oh yeah, give him this.
Huh? A coin? What does it mean? Wait, where'd he go? Dude, that was weird. I guess we should do what he said, though.
Excuse me, sir, but Jock sent us over here to you. He said you have some stories that you'd be willing to share?
Go away. Can't you see I want to drink in peace?
Well, Jock told us to give you this.
Well then, sit down.
So, Jock didn't tell us anything about you. I'm Brian, and this is Stokes. And you are?
Typical. He's always sending people over here to me and telling them nothing. But he must have seen something in you two if he gave you this coin.
What is so special about that coin anyway?
See this symbol?
Yeah?
It is the symbol for S.E.A.
That doesn't answer my question as to who you are, though.
Fine. I'm Meriwether Adam Pleasure. I'm the founder of Pleasure Island and the local S.E.A. chapter, the Adventures Club which used to be located down the street here.
Pleasure Island. Does that mean you had your own personal island?
Seriously? No, it means I was the original resident of the community.
So, what's the story with this place? Where did your club go?
In my younger days, I was an avid world traveler and member of S.E.A. While in Mexico, I experienced a mystical vision of a moon-faced spirit known as the Funmeister. This vision inspired me to sell my industrial empire to begin anew in Central Florida. Upon the discovery of an ancient totem of the Fundmeister here on what used to be the Federer Peninsula, and in 1911 I established my new sail-making business, and I would buy a retired showboat known as the Bailey Fenortner Floating Arts Palace, and brought it all the way here to be docked along the shore. The showboat, which we renamed Empress Lily, served not only as the home for myself, my wife Isabella, and our two boys Stuart and Henry, but also the office for our new venture. Over the next few years, the construction of pleasure canvas and sailmakers would go into full swing, and over a 20-year period, we would go from a tiny operation to a massive company consisting of many buildings within the complex. However, it wasn't without its construction setbacks and minor little hiccups, like to celebrate the end of World War I, when I set off the world's largest firecracker, and, I accidentally destroyed the land bridge, turning the peninsula into an island. I present to you the development of Pleasure Island. Anyway, on the 4th of July, the same year, I moved my now 5-member family, with the addition of my baby girl Miriam, into a proper family home on the island itself. It wasn't soon after that, Isabella was feeling that the new home had become a little cramped by my extensive library and archaeological collections, and in 21, I decided to build the Adventurers Club to house and display my artifacts. 10 years later, my museum had become a spot for entertaining my fellow explorers and adventurers, and with that, the headquarters for the local chapter of S.E.A. was born. By 37, the island had grown so popular and so crowded, I built a new home for Isabella just off the island, which you may now hear as being referred to as the Grand Floridian.
Hang on. So you built this club just for you and your friends to store all your junk?
No. Son, the Adventurers Club was so much more than a club. It was a museum meant to share knowledge and artifacts with the world, and a meeting location for travelers, explorers, and adventurers with shared interests from all around the world. This place brought together the most interesting group of eccentric characters one could ever meet, like Hathaway Brown, Otis T. Wren, Fletcher Hodges, Pamela Perkins, Samantha Sterling, Emil Bleehall, and many more. Each room was decorated with elaborate and intriguing artifacts, some of which sprang to life mysteriously, which only added to the experience. There are so many stories surrounding the adventures and explorations of each member in my chapter, as well as the members of other S.E.A. chapters the world over.
Hold up. You're saying you built this club in 1921. How old are you?
My boy, time moves a lot slower here, and what seems like years to people on the outside is no time at all for us in here. Many people have said it's the power of Disney magic, but I have a few other ideas.
So you keep saying it. What exactly is this S.E.A. you keep mentioning?
Do you boys not know anything? It's the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. The Adventurers Club was a local chapter's headquarters for the Society. The Society was first founded back in 1538 in Porto Paradiso. That's in Italy, if you don't know. This founding group consisted of scientists, explorers, researchers, artists, travelers, and adventurers from around the globe. S.E.A. is dedicated to the continued exploration of the world's oceans and exotic lands. They believed in 4 guiding concepts, and they are represented on the Fortress Exploration's crest. Adventure, represented as a galleon. Romance, an armillary sphere. Discovery, a compass. And innovation, artist's tools. Selected as the best ways to represent the original charter and mission statement. Fortress Explorations was opened to the public a few years back as a walkthrough experience to help promote the sharing of nautical and scientific knowledge for world exploration.
Wow. Italy? So this clearly is a worldwide organization.
Are you not paying attention?
Could you just elaborate some more?
It is unclear from Fortress Explorations who were the original founding members, but the Explorers Hall references some of the greatest explorers of all time, like Sir Francis Drake, Leonardo da Vinci, Tycho Brahe, Vasco da Gama, Christopher Columbus, Ferdinand Magellan,
Could some of these explorers have founded S.E.A., or were their portraits just hung up for inspiration?
No one really knows, but there are a lot of signs that point to their involvement. What we do know is the next 350 years are considered the S.E.A. Dark Ages. There is no written record of the society's existence during this time. However, as the legend of S.E.A. started to expand, literature seemed to indicate that the organization founded, or was rather refounded, in the late 1800s by Captain Mary Oceaneer, Harrison Hightower III, Dr. Albert Falls, Barnabas T. Bullion, Lord Henry Mystic, and Jason Chandler. Jason even served as the president.
That's pretty interesting. Can you tell us more about these so-called founding members?
Sure. Dr. Albert Falls was the founder of the Jungle Navigation Company and the illustrious namesake of the Schweitzer Falls. After he went missing in the jungles of Africa, he was presumed dead, and his granddaughter, Alberta Falls, inherited the cargo business and transformed it into a popular nautical tour, the Jungle Cruise, and also opened the company's headquarters down in the Amazon rainforest to the public as the Skipper's Canteen. Captain Mary Oceaneer is a treasure-hunting heroine and world-famous oceanographer, accompanied by her trusted parrot Salty, and has traveled across the world's oceans aboard the RV Oceaneer. Harrison Hightower III was known for his large personality and even larger ego, feeling that any treasure he sought should belong to him. Lord Henry Mystic, the owner of Mystic Manor, located in Mystic Point, New Guinea, also toured the world to collect rare artifacts. Mystic even made friends with the mischievous monkey named Albert that he saved from a giant spider in Africa. Barnabas T. Bullion is the president and founder of the Big Thunder Mining Company at Big Thunder Mountain. The longtime mining magnate comes from a powerful East Coast family and considers gold to be his very birthright by virtue of his oddly appropriate name. In fact, he considers the ultimate gold strike to be his destiny. And finally, Jason Chandler. He is another founding member and president of S.E.A. A young inventor, he devised a drilling machine with the capability of boring into the very heart of Big Thunder Mountain. Chandler then established a scientific outpost in Northern California known as Discovery Bay and funded research into strange and unusual technologies. Are you boys okay?
Yeah?
Just a little in shock over the Pandora's box we just opened.
Well, gentlemen, I have enjoyed this blast of my past, but I must be going. I have an expedition with my little girl to the Antarctic to start preparing for. Here, take this with you.
Our adventure has taken us back full circle to a single coin, but something is different. Something has changed. The coin is not the same. But before they could ask Merryweather, he had already vanished. The men looked down at the coin in confusion and disbelief. Could it be magic? Join our adventurers on social media as they begin to uncover the mystery behind this new coin.
We hope that you enjoyed this fun way of us introducing the characters and story of S.E.A. Each episode we will follow the same format, and we'll follow that up with an actual history of each location and or attraction that was referenced in the story.
So, we introduced Merryweather Pleasure and his Adventurers Club. Let's take some time to share the actual history and how it ties into S.E.A. The Adventurers Club opened with the rest of Pleasure Island at the Walt Disney World Resort on May 1st, 1989, as part of a fictional legend about the island's previous owner, Merryweather Adam Pleasure. It was a themed nightclub that was styled after a private club for world travelers and explorers and was set in 1937. Due to age restrictions, I never had the chance to actually go inside the club, but Brian, you were able to experience it on one of your earlier trips, right?
I actually did. On one of my first trips, I was old enough to visit and spend a good bit of time in the club. Little did I know that I would be talking about it on a podcast way back then. From what I can remember, the walls of the club were covered with artifacts and photographs from various explorations. There were animatronics, puppets, and a cast of adventurers who performed in shows and improvisational comedy while mingling with guests. But let's go deeper than my memory and share a first-hand account from former Imagineer Craig McNair Wilson, who worked on the dramatic team. He said, "It came out of our collective shared love of the world of the pith helmet and all that circled around it. It was a place we always wanted to go, but it didn't exist." Wilson said the idea originated from a Sunday afternoon theme party given by Disney Imagineer Joe Rohde. The theme of the party was the last days of Raj. Every year, for years, the employees would dress up in theme costumes to recreate the days of British colonialism.
So, we've talked about the backstory and how it was created. Now, let's try to help you visualize the interior. The club itself consisted of several different rooms. What can you tell us about those?
Well, the zebra mezzanine was the top floor of the club. The club entrance led into the mezzanine, which formed a circular balcony around the main salon. The walls featured many artifacts and even had a framed parchment of the club creed.
We climb the highest mountains just to get a better view. We plumb the deepest oceans, cause we're daring through and through. We cross the scorching deserts, martini in our hands. We ski the polar ice caps in tuxedo-looking grunge. We are reckless, brave and loyal, valiant to the end. If you come in here a stranger, you will exit as a friend.
The main salon was the central room of the club. It housed the nightclub's primary bar and also had a small stage from which the adventurers often spoke or led shows such as the new member induction ceremony. The walls of this room were filled with even more artifacts than in the mezzanine, and many have placards giving their history and their importance to Merriweather Pleasure. The mask room was a small room off of the main salon that featured several shows throughout the night. The walls were covered with even more masks from around the world, many of which moved and laughed. The treasure room was another small room off of the main salon. It contained additional artifacts gathered by the club members and also hosted several shows throughout the night. One featured the genie head in a lantern special effect. Finally, there was the library, and this room was the largest room in the club and hosted the larger and mostly scripted shows, many of which were musical in nature. We can't forget the fact that there were amazingly talented character actors portraying club members, which helped lead to the authenticity, and it truly made you feel like you were completely immersed into the club itself. Not to mention, new members were inducted into the club as New Year's was celebrated each and every night, not just at the Adventurers Club, but on Pleasure Island as a whole.
Now, on June 27, 2008, Disney unfortunately announced the Adventurers Club, along with all of the other clubs on Pleasure Island, would be closing permanently later that year. So, how does the Adventurers Club tie into the S.E.A? Well, we should probably mention that the Adventurers Club came before the S.E.A story was introduced into the Disney universe. So, it created the foundation that Imagineers needed for the current expansion of this universe to exist. Disney is continuing to add to the story each and every year, so be sure to keep an eye out for hidden themes and messages that may just tie back to this original idea of the Adventurers Club.
Be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms to follow along as we continue to uncover the history, fantasy, and legend that is S.E.A. Thanks for tuning in to episode 1. We hope that you join us next month as we go cruising and introduce you to more characters within S.E.A.
Tungaloosh!
You've been listening to the Main Street Chronicles, part of the Imagination Radio Network and a BRS production.
Gosh, you're still here? Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share the Main Street Chronicles. Have a good day. Oh boy. So long.